Welcome again, everyone who's joining us now. My name is Ryan, and I'm the Communications Coordinator at People Powered. I'm excited to announce that the third cohort of the Accelerator has begun, and we're excited to welcome you today. Please feel free to write any questions you have in the chat below, and we'll address them at the end. It's inspiring to see so many people joining us today who are passionate about climate action. We've seen the growing impacts of the climate crisis on communities across the world, but we also know that when a group of people with big ideas come together, we can make a difference. And I can't wait for you to learn how today. This event is presented in collaboration with our partners, Open Government Partnership Local, Waverly Street Foundation, the International Republican Institute, the National Democratic Institute, and the Transparency and Accountability Initiative. We thank them all for their support. Here's what we'll cover today: what the Climate Democracy Accelerator is, how it works, and what kind of support you'll receive, how the CDA has already supported the launch of several climate action initiatives around the world, how you can submit a strong application to be selected for the next cohort, and finally, we'll be having a Q&A because we want to hear from you. As a reminder, you can ask questions in English, Spanish, French, or Portuguese in the chat, and we'll come back to them during the Q&A section at the end. Our speakers for today are Rudy Borman, the Deputy Director of OGP Local. And from the People Powered side, we have Clara Bois, Program Director, and Zoe Wilkins, Climate Democracy Associate. And via video, we have Nyasha Frank Mpalo, the founder of the Green Governance Zimbabwe Trust, and Catalina Fernandez, the political advocacy anthropologist of FIMA Chile. They both just implemented the action plans that they created in the first cohort of the CDA, and we can't wait for you to hear more about their work. In case you didn't know, we are People Powered, the global hub for participatory democracy. Our mission is to expand people's power to make government decisions by supporting organizations and governments that are building participatory democracy around the world. You may ask, why participatory democracy? Because, as we know, elections alone are not enough to give people a voice on how they are governed. People want more power. So what do? First, we create pathways for policy change. We develop resources, organize trainings, offer mentorship opportunities to help civil society and governments work together to develop policies in a participatory way. Second, we build a global community of practice so that we can do more together. And with our members, we decide on the projects to prioritize to address common needs. And if you're interested in being part of this community, please let us know. We will also be sharing more info and memberships in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. Now comes the fun part, getting to know each other a little better. We'd love to hear two things about you. First, what is the biggest climate issue that you would like to address? And what is your main challenge when thinking about starting a participatory process for climate action? Feel free to leave your responses in the chat below. No pressure. We'd just like to get to know you a bit better. Hello, Tandy. Hi, Mildred. Anyone? Would you like to let us know what climate issue that you're most interested in working on? Sanskriti mentioned emissions from motorized transport. Henry mentions air pollution in cities in Uganda. There's a big issue that's affecting so many countries right now. It's a lot coming in now: deforestation, water scarcity, climate justice. biodiversity, yes, these are examples, a lot of examples of issues that the CDA will address with different cohorts. Thank you so much for sharing all of the issues that you're interested in working in, and also sharing some of your challenges. Carol mentions that the biggest challenges that she faces is in local communities is biodiversity and gender equality. So we see common threats that it's not easy to run participatory programs, and we hear you. And I think now is the perfect time to pass the mic to my colleague Clara, who will share more about accelerators as a solution to climate crisis issues. Clara.
All right, thank you, Ryan. And welcome everyone to this orientation webinar. I'm Clara, Program Director at People Powered, and it's my pleasure to give you a brief introduction to our accelerator model. At People Powered, we've heard about the challenges you have shared with us before, and we also heard about challenges to start a participatory program, to address hard conversations like these ones. And that's why we're focusing our resources on the program designed specifically to help you accelerate your work by giving you resources on program design specifically to help you develop a participatory program so you can start addressing these challenges together with your community. So what is an accelerator? We want to invite applicants like yourselves who are government staff, officials, and policymakers who are seeking to implement a participatory project but need support to face some challenges, such as engaging the public to make hard decisions together. Our programs are also for members of civil society organizations or coalitions who are supporting or advocating for more public participation and inclusiveness in government decision-making for climate action. This accelerator program support has 5 components: the guided expert mentorship, global peer learning, step-by-step resources, self-paced training, and implementation guidance and funding. I will talk a little bit about each of these components right now. So the first one is mentorship. You'll be assigned to a dedicated mentor who has experience working with climate action and public participation. They will help you plan all the stages of your climate-focused participatory project. And in this slide, you can see our 10 experts for this cycle of the program. They represent diverse expertise and regions of the world, and I think we can make a great match with you. They are supporting the development of our program materials as well. So here you can see Ana Vien, Anoka Primos, Columbina Schaffer, Don Poa, Mariana Wanjiku, Mateusz Wozniak, Oluchi Igili, and Paulo Francisco. And Hiska Haidani and Saha Balagnesh. So they're great experts that can help you design these programs and really create an action plan so you can start your participation program. Third, second, we have the global peer learning. We also believe that you have a lot to learn in the exchange with other participants from your cohort and People Powered's network. In this map, you can see the geographic representation of the first Climate Democracy Accelerator program. And you'll have a chance to get connected to alumni and also with other accelerators learners. Third, we offer resources highlighting best practice that will help you to build a successful program. We have the participation playbook, the people-powered resource library, and the program materials. Our online interactive participation playbook, which walks you step by step through the decisions you need to make to decide which type of participatory democracy is right for you, and then plan and implement it. And again, you have the mentor guiding, also helping you to complete this playbook. So it's a process that you do together with support, not by yourself. You also have periodic online groups and in implementation, monitoring, and evaluation to help you follow on the promise of their participatory program and sustain it over time. The playbook, the mentor online courses are a powerful combo that will move you forward to your action plan. Finally, program participants will be awarded with support grants for the implementation of the action plan. So here is how this journey looks like. The application deadlines will be, the applications will be open until January 5th, 2024. So until the first week of next year, we'll send selection and acceptance by March next year, and the programs starts in April. The implementation period goes from October, and program starts in April, ends in July 2024. The implementation periods goes from 2024 through September, October 2024 through September 2025. I hope I can see a proposal and read a proposal from you and your organization. Thank you all for your time. I will pass the mic again to Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara, for explaining the people-powered accelerators as a whole. We will go into the specifics of the CDA in a moment, but first I want to bring you to our next speaker, Rudy Borman from OGP Local, who will share more on why the accelerator programs make sense for governments. Rudy?
Thank you so much, Ryan, and hello everyone on the call. Super excited to be here sharing this initial presentation of this exciting program that we are partnering. I'm here representing the Open Government Partnership. It's an international organization with more than 80 members countries, more than 100 local governments that basically run action plans that are co-created with civil society to take it forward. Much of our evidence based on these action plans, different commitments to reinforce democracy, show that when a policy is made in a participatory way, in an open way, you make more sustainable policy. This is why this particular program, I think it's very interesting, because it not only will give you the tools, the examples, the mentorship, the support, and the dedicated time to think about your own strategy adapted to your context, but also you will learn how to work better with others, how to be smart about working better with others. And I think this is a very substantial component of a new way to do policy. And sometimes in many governments, these capacities are not at the center or well distributed. So one of the core components that this accelerator will also bring to you is this ability, this capacity to work with other actors from your city. Especially, this is very important at the local level, where the variety of actors, in this case, that are involved and also affected by climate issues, it's huge. So it's a great opportunity. And at the local level, it's where we can see great examples. As you know, at international level, since Chernobyl, since the Rio de Janeiro agreement, and very recently into the Escazú agreement for climate democracy, it's really putting into the main stage the importance, the relevance that participatory processes, open government processes have in order to take forward climate democracy. So this is all that is being packed on this accelerator. So we couldn't be more excited to be part of this program, be here supporting, also bringing our community forward to help you along the way. So happy to be here. I'll be also, if there are any question on the chat, and back to you, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rudy, for highlighting the challenge of governments to increase climate participation, and how accelerators can bridge that gap. We will now hear more about the specifics of the Climate Democracy Accelerator from Zoe Wilkins, our Climate Democracy Associate. You'll learn all about the details you've been waiting for, including examples of programs, applications, and what implementation assistance is available. Zoe?
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. I'm going to tell you a bit more about the Climate Democracy Accelerator in particular, after all of that context we just got from Clara and from Rudy. We often call it the CDA, so you might hear that in the mix of the questions and when we come to past participants who will tell you a bit more about the program. So to give you a bit of an overview, the CDA is a program about building capacity to deliver participatory climate democracy processes. We'll work with you to design a fit-for-purpose action plan ready for implementation with support from both local or regional government and civil society working together to give it the best chance of impact. So before we go into the specifics, let's think a bit more about why does climate governance need public participation? So first, by bringing together communities, organizations, and governments, public participation can broaden and deepen understanding, both of what climate risks and impacts are, and as well as what governments are doing to build resilience and to reduce emissions. Second, participation works to engage historically marginalized groups and those most impacted by the climate crisis to shape policy and holding decision makers accountable. Third, through creating space for collaboration and exploration in the context of participatory democracy, it enables both policymakers and community members to identify unintended impacts of proposed climate policies. And finally, it works to build trust between constituents and governments to overcome obstacles together, such as being able to rethink entrenched habits, beliefs, or approaches that perhaps historically have worked, but maybe aren't what we need now. So what does this look like in action? Shortly, we'll hear from past program participants who will share their journeys in the CDA, but we thought it might be helpful to give you a bit more of an idea about what a participatory climate process might look like. So I'll share 2 quick examples before we hear from them. The first one I wanted to mention is the city-level climate citizen assemblies that were led by Delibera Brazil. I think this is a particularly interesting example because the same civil society organization worked with a range of different local governments, and they came out with 3 quite different climate assembly processes. So one city came up with a proposal for a sanitation system after identifying issues with improper solid waste disposal. Another city had citizens review the municipal plan for climate change mitigation and adaptation so they could prioritize on that municipal level. And a third city worked together to think about industrial production of jeans, which is the main industry where they were, and to think about how to reduce air pollution. So I think something this highlights is the ways that although working in similar contexts with similar tools, you can come to very different endpoints and program designs by using the tools of participatory democracy. Another example, which was put forward by a city council, so came from the city side and government side rather than from a CSO, was green participatory budgeting in Lisbon. So in this city, they institutionalized an annual process which involved a participatory assembly where they would look at green project proposals from citizens, then go to a city council participatory budgeting team and put out to a public vote. And from this project, again, we see quite a diverse mix of proposals and projects. So they came up with a green corridor linking a central park to a metropolitan forest that they could only get to by car before. And they also converted a parking lot into a public garden, among many other kinds of projects. So we're excited to work with those who are selected to build up participatory climate democracy programs that might look like these two, but might look like something quite different. The most important thing is that this program will help engage in issues that you're working on with the people you're directly impacted in your local contexts. So with that, now the question you're probably asking is, who can apply for the next CDA cohort? So we encourage partnership is a key thing to highlight because we think this increases, and evidence shows this increases the chance of sustainability and success for participatory democracy programs. So while one individual will be the main applicant, they will be representing 1 to 2 other organizations. These organizations could be a local or regional government official, staff member, or policymaker. And if you are applying as a government at any level, an important thing to highlight is that you need to apply with a partnership of a civil society organization. You could also, as a lead applicant, apply as a civil society organization or non-governmental organization staff member and or advocate. And while it's not mandatory, we would strongly recommend that you apply in partnership with the government, again, as this just really strengthens the likelihood that we'll be able to create sustainable change. So through this selection process, we will pick 15 applicants, and these 15 individuals will represent their government organization or CSO and that partnership. So I know you might be 2 organizations, but there'll be 1 person representing both, and we'll work with them to think about how to include the partnership throughout the program and in the design of the participatory process. Once you're selected, there is the whole breadth of support that Clara went through in the accelerator model. But one thing just to highlight is that upon completion of the program, you will receive support to start implementation. And every participant will receive a grant of $10,000 US, and 1 project from each cohort will also receive an additional $20,000 award. So thank you. That's a first intro, and you'll hear a bit more from me later, but for now, I'll pass back to Ryan.
Thank you, Zoe, for going into more depth about the CDA. I see some questions on the chat asking which countries can apply, and the answer is all countries can apply. So there is no limitation in terms of countries. The specific requirements will be expanded on in a little bit and in the links that we'll share. But for now, we'll watch a video message by a previous CDA graduate, Nyasha Frank Mpalo from the Green Governance Zimbabwe Trust, who implemented an innovative legislative theater project that led to concrete climate policy changes. So let's watch the message. We may need to turn on audio for the sharing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nyasha Frank Mpalo, and I'm the Director for Green Governance Zimbabwe Trust, a public interest institution that seeks to promote citizen participation and inclusion in decision-making processes in Zimbabwe. Earlier this year, I got to participate in the Climate Democracy Action Program, which was a great privilege for myself and my organization to be able to enhance and improve our intervention logic when it comes to influencing policy. This comes after our council, which is the Chimanimani Rural District Council, developed the Chimanimani Climate Change and Watershed Policy in response to the cyclone of 2019 that was devastating and led to the displacement of 100,000 people, the death of more than 360 people, and of course, destruction of livelihoods and property. 5 years later, we still do not have a functional climate change and watershed policy or an institution thereof that supports the implementation of this piece of document. Therefore, we thought and we actually understood that the legislative theater approach would be a unique approach that we have never used before, and that could work to ensure that the climate change and the watershed policy is brought to life. Through the guidance of Katie Rubin, because we managed to put together a group of young people that are motivated to push climate change issues. We could see that as we developed this theater, there was consensus building, there was dialogue, there was engagement between young people and duty bearers and traditional leaders. At the end of this process, 3 main commitments were made. The first commitment was that the council committed to ensure that 5% of the council budget is allocated towards implementing the climate change and watershed policy. Secondly, a commitment was made to ensure that young people are part of the decision-making processes. As we speak, 20 young people from Green Governance Zimbabwe community structures are part of the full council meeting, and they're able to make decisions that are aligned to climate issues. Thirdly, the council also committed to review bylaws which were outdated and do not speak to the current realities of climate impacts that are being faced. This was a success story that we as an institution are grateful for, and which we will continue to use within our climate change approaches and others. We are thankful for this opportunity, and we wish you the best in this project. Hello, everyone. My name is Nyasha.
So that was a great example of climate action using legislative theater, one of the several participatory approaches that are covered in the CDA and that we encourage you to explore. I'm inspired personally, and if you are too, Zoe will quickly share with you now on how you can apply.
Thanks, Ryan. So yeah, as we just heard from Frank, he was able to create and run this very exciting, very innovative participatory democracy program. So if watching that, you feel like you have an idea that could similarly benefit from the support and being built out, we would really encourage you to apply. So to do this, you can scan this QR code. We'll also share all the links after the session. This is just a reminder partway through. So yeah, please scan, please visit our website and reach out to me. We'll share, again, my email at the end and how you can get in touch to apply to the program by January 5th. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Zoe. The application link will also be in the chat soon. But for now, we'll watch another video from another CDA graduate, Catalina Fernandez from FEMA Chile, and her impressive effort in launching Chile's first ever climate assembly.
Hola a todos y a todas, bienvenidas a esta presentación sobre la experiencia de la Asamblea Climática Ciudadana de la región de los lagos de ONG FEMA. Mi nombre es Catalina Fernández, yo formo parte de esta organización que trabaja hace 25 años por la justicia ambiental en Chile, y el día de hoy les vamos a contar de qué se trató esta Asamblea Climática Ciudadana y cómo puede desarrollarla en el marco del Programa de Acción para la Democracia Climática. Bueno, la Asamblea Climática fue un mecanismo de democracia participativa para seleccionar un grupo representativo de la población de la región de los lagos, compuesto por 60 personas, para decidir cómo abordar los problemas asociados al cambio climático. De esta manera, y bajo la invitación del WRI y People Power, nosotros testeamos con el equipo de FEMA una de las herramientas que proporciona el Programa de Acción para la Democracia Climática, que es el Playbook, y escogimos una de las 4 metodologías que ellos presentan y la llevamos a cabo en el contexto de un proceso participativo para el Plan de Acción Regional de Cambio Climático, que es una política climática. Armamos un equipo de trabajo compuesto por el gobierno regional, el Consejo Regional, el Ministerio de Medio Ambiente, representado por la Secretaría Regional Ministerial, y 9 organizaciones de la sociedad civil que trabajan temas ambientales en la región de los lagos. Con este equipo diseñamos la asamblea climática, es decir, tomamos la metodología que nos proponía el playbook a partir de una serie de encuestas que nos permitieron decir cuál era el mejor proceso participativo que se ajustara a las necesidades que nosotros teníamos, y llevamos esa metodología a nuestro contexto territorial, logrando así un total de 31 recomendaciones que fueron votadas en línea. La mayoría de las recomendaciones abordan los principales desafíos ambientales de la región.
Everyone, just to leave a message that if you want to listen to this video in a different language or in English, the interpretation button is available to you, and our interpreters will be interpreting this video to your language. Thank you.
Fue muy interesante. Temas como educación ambiental, crisis hídrica, eficiencia energética, gestión de riesgos de desastre, salieron en este trabajo, y se logró que la Asamblea alcanzara un alto nivel de consenso al respecto, que osciló entre el 92 y el 100%. Entonces así podíamos identificar que la mayoría se sentía identificado con lo que aparecía en el texto final. Así que, bueno, quería contarles un poco ya desde las mismas voces de la Asamblea la experiencia que significó para los participantes, y me quería quedar aquí con una frase que es estamos aquí porque soñamos. Soñamos posibilidades de hacer las cosas distintas, de crear en conjunto soluciones compartidas para problemas compartidos, como es el cambio climático. Y cómo el programa, el CDA Program, nos ayudó en todo este proceso, principalmente a través de tres formas. Uno, el acceso a recursos, que estuvo dado principalmente por el acceso a la guía interactiva de participación, el Participation Playbook, que, como les decía, tiene una serie de cuestionarios o keystones a través de los cuales uno va pudiendo profundizar en una determinada metodología y conocer cuál es la que más se ajusta a sus necesidades, sabiendo qué decisiones tomar y las ventajas y desventajas que representa una a la otra al momento de diseñar y ejecutar tu proceso participativo. También a través del mismo Playbook tuvimos acceso a una serie de recursos y materiales complementarios que nos permitió profundizar mucho más nuestro conocimiento sobre estas metodologías, y que fue fundamental para el momento de diseñarla en conjunto con las otras organizaciones ambientales. Con esto me refiero a estudios de caso y documentos metodológicos, manuales, y entre tantos otros videos, documentales, etcétera, que se pueden encontrar en la plataforma de People Power. Y en segundo lugar, pero no menos importante, la mentoría, que fue un proceso también súper importante que vimos, tanto desde CIMA como desde el gobierno regional. Ambas partes estuvimos durante todo el proceso acompañados por nuestros mentores o tutores, que fueron personas expertas en asamblea ciudadana. Incluso algunos habían llevado a cabo procesos de asambleas climáticas que nos tuvieron la mejor de las voluntades para transmitirnos todos sus conocimientos y irnos aconsejando durante los distintos momentos de la ejecución del proyecto. Y finalmente, el financiamiento para toda la implementación del proyecto, último pero no menos importante, fue que pudimos, por un lado, financiar el traslado del equipo de FIMA a la región, además de contar con un equipo técnico, obviamente, durante todo este proceso, pero algo muy importante, considerando las características del territorio chileno, que es largo, extenso, pudimos desde Santiago, donde nos encontramos ubicados, viajar a la región y tener sesiones presenciales que fueron tan importantes para los participantes, considerando que estábamos después de un proceso como la pandemia. Y finalmente también, que algo que recalcaron mucho los participantes, fue la posibilidad de entregar viáticos a ellos para financiarles el transporte, el alojamiento y la alimentación. Y esto fue algo esencial al momento de asegurar la participación de los participantes, en especial de aquellos que venían de sectores bastante remotos y aislados. Así que los dejo súper invitados a ser parte de este segundo corte de la asamblea, del programa de acción para la democracia climática, y que puedan seguir conociendo más sobre este tipo de metodologías, entre tantos otros como el trato legislativo, la elaboración participativa de política, y los presupuestos participativos. Así que eso, los dejo con esta imagen para que se motiven, y un gusto estar aquí con ustedes.
we hope that that has given you even more ideas on ways that the CDA can bring. And it's a good time to turn to Zoe again, and she'll provide valuable advice on writing a good application.
Thanks, Ryan. So now starting to think about, we learned about the program, we've heard about what people can do in it, but how do we apply and what steps should we take? So we want to support each of you to submit a strong proposal which highlights the great work that you do. So to begin, here is the timeline for application, which Clara mentioned earlier. So you can see the application is open now, and the deadline will be on January the 5th. I would encourage you to start planning backwards from that deadline, taking into account any breaks or holidays in this period to give yourself time for drafting and editing the application. And we will, by February 2024, notify you about the decision to give us time for due diligence and all other admin bits so we can give you a formal acceptance letter in March 2024 before the program kickoff in April. So how do you submit a strong application? Once you start writing, I'd encourage you to put the long answer questions into a separate document to work on. These questions cover your climate challenge, program proposal, its ability to be inclusive and effective in moving us towards a just transition, and your program goals. So when answering these, make sure to be as clear and concise as possible, to think about the question and directly respond to it, and to use evidence and examples wherever possible to illustrate your ideas. For the rest of the application, it mostly focuses on organizational information for both you and your partner. And I would encourage you to focus on developing a strong partnership with clear support for your program, as this will help your application. As a final note, we would also encourage you to check the eligibility criteria, which is particular to receiving the grant, which is included in the application form. So just to have a look there about what we require to be able to make the transfer, to check that you'll be able to receive the grant if you're successful in your application. And so those, you can see our 4 top tips on the screen, and we'll share the slides with you after, so you can come back to this when you start writing.
Thank you, Zoe. So that covers most of our sharing, but now we have time for the speakers to answer the questions that some of you have submitted when you registered. And you can also continue adding questions in the chat. Some of you have already left questions. We will sort of slowly go through and pick 1 or 2. I will let Zoe from the program team respond to some of them now.
Thanks, Ryan. So I've been trying to catch some in the chat as we've been going, and then we also have the bank, but feel free to add more questions and we'll do our best to pick up what we can, and we'll give you contact details to get in touch with us if we don't have time to answer everything now. So some first few from the chat that I've seen. One, to clarify, yes, NGOs, so non-governmental organizations or CSOs, civil society organizations, all qualify. It's important that they're nonprofit organizations for us to be able to comply with the eligibility criteria, but NGOs, CSOs, both work. And I also saw a question about countries. Someone commented that most of the successful applicants in the last cohort are from the Global South. And while this is true, you are eligible and you qualify no matter which country you're from. So this wasn't by design, this was due to the applications we received in the last cohort. I've also seen some questions around partnership. So do I have to have a partner? How do I prove this? As I mentioned, we strongly encourage partnership, and it is required if you are applying as a government. Again, because of the eligibility criteria and receiving the grants, this can only go to a CSO. So if you are a government lead applicant, you need to have a formal partnership with your CSO partner. So this might be a memorandum of understanding or some other kind of formal agreement. However, if you're a civil society organization or NGO, while this would strengthen your application, this is not a requirement. It's simply recommended. So I saw someone ask If I don't have a partner at the time of application, can I still apply? And can I find one later? And the answer to that is yes, of course. And if this is your plan, please indicate that in your application so we know that it's something you're thinking about and that you have options and ways you're thinking about building that out to strengthen your application. What else? We had 2 submitted before the event around what types of projects qualify. So we had one asking, can we design a program linking children and climate? And another one asking whether organizations supporting climate refugees are eligible. And I think the answer to both of these is really yes, any proposal is acceptable, any project can work as long as you are focusing on how you can expand public participation to create solutions to climate challenges. So in your application, I would just encourage you to think through those questions and think very clearly, what is the climate challenge I'm addressing? It could be climate migration. And how will I tackle this using the tools of participatory democracy? So also thinking, how am I going to include marginalized or vulnerable groups? How will I effectively engage the people who are most impacted? And just make sure you're creating a compelling proposal that directly answers the questions we've laid out, no matter what the specific topic area of your climate program is. And a last one I see in this question bank so far is about whether this is an online program or if there are expected journeys or travels. And so yes, this as it stands is totally an online program. So the one thing is that you will need internet access to attend the Zoom sessions, to access our online training platform, and to use the participation playbook. And I'm just looking to see if other questions have come through.
Thanks, Zoe. I think there are a few still, I guess, following up about the partnership. Maybe people have some questions about that.
Yes. Can you submit more than one proposal? We would encourage you to focus on creating one really strong proposal and making that the strongest it can be, rather than submitting multiple would be, my advice and answer to that. How much is the grant ceiling? So the grant is $10,000 US for everybody, but one project in each cohort will receive an additional $20,000. Can one apply and participate without a partnership? If you're a civil society organization or NGO, as I mentioned, yes, you can apply without a partnership, but to have a strong application, we would at least want to see ways that you're thinking about who else you need to engage and how you might work with government. We as a government institution, can we work with 2 or more CSOs or NGOs to apply for this grant? In the application, there's a space for 2 organizations to have the details. There's the lead applicant and the partner applicant. So we don't have room in the formal application for more, but of course we encourage you to work with more organizations and to engage other people in your local area and other stakeholders. So if there's multiple, that's great. But again, there will still be one person representing the coalition. Someone else has asked, we work on safety of children and women. Do you incorporate this aspect? We have a course that focuses on inclusion, so we'll touch on some of those topics there. If anyone else from our program team is seeing other questions they want to address, feel free to jump in. Someone has just said they're not clear on the partnership with government. So if you're, this is from Shaw, I assume you were applying as a civil society organization. So the partnership with government is to help think about how to implement your program, so that if you can implement the participatory program you're working on, there will be a way for it to have more sustainability and more success in your local institutions. So that's the goal of having engagement from governments. And if you're a civil society organization, even a letter of support from some level of government, and this could be local or regional or national, it could be any kind of government department, but that would help us assess the kind of longevity and potential for sustainability of your program.
Thanks, Zoe. I think somebody has asked if the application questions are the same as the previous cohorts. Is there any difference?
Yes, they're slightly different questions. So yeah, again, I would encourage you to go into the Google Doc to look at those, and you'll be able to go back and edit the Google Doc. So pull out those questions and think through them with your team. And yeah, they focus, not the focus is similar, but we've had slightly different phrasing and slightly different focus on the questions, but asking you to articulate the goals of your program, the climate challenge, and your experience with participatory democracy are the core components.
There's another question. I'm not sure if this was covered, but Ibrahim is asking, can a for-profit company be a partner?
The main answer is no, because we can't give funds to a for-profit company. So the target here is really nonprofits and government. Another question around the memorandum of understanding. This sounds like it's coming from a government, from SAR. Yes, if you are a government applying with a CSO or NGO, you do need a memorandum of understanding or other formal agreement before applying. Yes, Jean, I see a question around a letter from local government. I think that would be really helpful for application. I would encourage you to include that, and there's details on how to send that to us in the application. To Beatrice, yes, issues tackling climate adaptation definitely qualify. Yeah, and I see a question around age group, any age group. Those are the main ones I'm seeing. Does anyone else have a question they want to ask or add in?
I see a very interesting question about what kind of collaboration is required from government, since we are asking them to partner with government. What are we expecting from this collaboration?
Thanks, Clara. Yeah, that's a very good question. So the way the program works is that we'll have your representative come through the program with us, but an expectation is that this person throughout the process is sharing back with their organization, whether that's governments or CSO. And so making sure that the government particularly is engaged in the steps so that it becomes a collaborative process that can be implemented between government and civil society, rather something that feels more separate or more different, that are kind of less embedded and engaged. So it's really helping also do the participation playbook and think with the mentors. So we can have multiple people from the coalition come along to the mentoring sessions, for example, to think together. But Clara, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on that.
No, I think that's a great answer. And I also want to address a question about if you need to have a registered company or organization to participate in the program, and the answer is yes. Zoe already mentioned that it needs to be a nonprofit organization or a non-governmental nonprofit organization. The other requirement is that this organization be incorporated for more than a year. So if you go to the webpage that we shared before, you see details on what we need from these, like minimum requirements for these organizations, so we can provide funding for them. This organization needs to show that they have at least a year of existence, and in that page you see the more detailed documents that we need if you are accepted. So if you don't meet these requirements, we can give you funding. That's the thing. And we'll have other calls for applications for CDA. So we hope you can apply again once you achieve those minimum requirements, but those requirements are very important. We can provide funding if you can't meet them, if your organization can't meet them.
Thanks, Clara. I also see one that just came through about whether an organization that has a different mission other than explicitly climate can apply if they're working on a climate program. And yeah, the answer is yes, as long as you're working on a climate program and that is you're trying to develop an idea for a participatory climate program, even if you have a broader mission, that still makes you eligible.
So I see a question about someone who submitted an application but haven't sent the letter yet. Can they still send the letter?
Yes, that's totally fine. As long as you send your letters by January 5th deadline, it's after that point that we'll be reviewing and checking. So please just make sure you send it through by January 5th.
Someone is
And-
asking if there are the requirements for the proposals written out, and I will just say yes. It is on our website on the Climate Democracy Accelerator page. We will share the link at the end, so don't worry, you will have access to that.
Also, I've seen some people asking for examples of memorandums of understandings. If you follow up with the email that we'll share at the end of the presentation, we can help you with that. As Clara was mentioning about the eligibility requirements, I see a couple of questions here about an NGO not being registered or just formed. Again, for the grant purposes, that will make you ineligible to receive the grant. But I see one person says you're affiliated with NGOs that have been in existence. Then I would encourage you to apply with one of those affiliated NGOs as the main NGO applicant to be able to receive the funding. A question around how many organizations per country. We don't have any formal limits on countries and organizations. We do try to think about creating a diverse cohort, but there's no formal requirement for certain amounts for certain countries or regions.
And keep these questions coming in. We have 2 more minutes to answer, but also I just want folks to know that we also share a lot of information on the CDA and accelerators on our social media pages, on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter now X, and also on our newsletter. We'll share the links at the end. So do follow us there to stay updated as well. Just wanted to note that.
Thanks, Ryan. And I see one question that's come through from Becca. Yes, we will share the link to the application with you at the end. We're asking how we can get the application and how we can fill this in. We will share this link. And they've also asked a question around language. So all the program components will be available in English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And that includes the training platform and our sessions and the playbook. And we will also share the email that you can contact us at after the session to ask more questions. And I see also some people have come in late. We will share the recording of this session after we finish in the next day or two. You'll receive recordings and all the information you need to keep following up. Anyone else from the program team see any other questions they want to pick up on or things they'd like to clarify?
Yes, any burning questions?
Yeah, I think we have time for one last question. I see Cipriano shared a question here about his organization that they just registered as a foundation in Angola. Cipriano, since you don't have at least 1 year of functioning and you can't provide us with audits, as I said, like we can't, you can apply, your organization can be the lead application and receive the funding. If you have a partner that can do that with you, be the organization who receives the funding, you are eligible, but we, as the grant maker, we can't give you funding. We can provide funding to organizations that has less than a year of incorporation. And you can find this information and more detailed, a more detailed explanation in our website that we're sharing a bit.
Right, I think that's all the time that we have for questions. Thank you for participating, for engaging, and like having so many questions. It was great. We hope that this has been helpful and that you have a clearer idea of the CDA now. And with that, I guess you would have a natural question. What is the next step you can take? Zoe has briefly mentioned it, but I will reiterate. In the next slide, if you want to be a part of the next CDA cohort, please apply by January 5th, 2024. The deadline might be next year, and it's easy to think that it's far away, but it's approaching faster than we think. We already have close to 70 applications, so it's better to get yours in early. You can scan the QR code on the screen right now, or you can go to the link that was sent at the end of the chat. And also, we will share the link in the follow-up email after the event. And next slide. Yes, we thank you all again for joining, and we encourage you to follow us on our social media and subscribe to our newsletter. The links and QR code is on the screen. If you haven't already, to stay updated with our work and more updates about the accelerators. And if you still have any questions or inquiries related to the applications or even potential partnerships, you can email us at programteam@peoplepower.org. Although the link that we share with you on our website would be quite comprehensive already, so we encourage you to read that first before sending questions our way. And once again, the recordings and slides for today will be sent to you in a few days. Yes, we hope you have a pleasant rest of the week, and we'll leave this slide open as we end the webinar. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.